hey, we're making a movie here, man.
Yes.
So I'm Mark Baer. I'm with Juan Sanchez.
Hey.
We're at Palenke Arts. Mr. Leche Malo presents Comfortable Unhappy tonight. We're getting ready for the big show.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun and
Exciting.
But I walked into this place, because we were going to do the show, and I had, I'd met you before, and I had no idea what went on in this space, and I was just kind of really humbled and knocked out by what you. So first of all, I want to, before we talk about Palenke Arts, let's talk about you personally a bit, and you're a musician.
Yeah, I'm a lot of things. I actually, I call myself a singer-songwriter, educator, Palenke Arts director, and so yeah, I'm a musician. I come from a long line of artists and musicians. My father played the piano. My grandparents, they all had music in their lives. My great-grandparents were military musicians that played multiple instruments, and they had compositions. And my great-great-great-grandfather was the organist of the Granada Cathedral in Spain. So music and art is a lot in my family, and I call myself an artist with a lowercase a, but this project is a little bit of like my art piece is happening these days. Is a communal art piece.
So one of my things has been about manifestation as the artist. What does the artist owe the community? What does the community owe the artist? What does the artist owe each other? And how do you create dynamism?
Right.
And Palenke has been doing that. You told me just the other day, you told me just 4 stories off the top of your head,
right,
of what goes on here. It's let's talk about a little bit of what goes on here.
Yeah, so this place is a vision realized by a lot of different folks. And Palenke means palisade. It is a collection of palos or sticks. And for me, the way that I see this is how do we bring these sticks together to create what it is that is going on over here. So first of all, from the design perspective, we wanted to ask folks here in Seaside, do we need a space? Does this need to exist? And talk to a lot of stakeholders. We surveyed 155 kids at Seaside High School, and to a T, everybody said yes. But the answer also was like, I asked them specifically what should happen here. Like, well, anything, because we don't have very much, right? So what goes on in here is a collection of classes, workshops, events. There's a lot of socializing. There's a lot of coming together. We have classes in 13 different art disciplines this semester, and we're incorporating a new one, coming in as soon as Monday. We've offered this semester Latin dance, bilingual chorus. We had a film class, a small film class taught by students at CSUMB, Latin jazz. We have a visual arts class, hip hop dance, ballet folklorico, West African drumming, Afro-Cuban drumming, garage band, private piano instruction, and we teach also during the day beginning band and orchestra. So we do a lot. We're very small, small staff, small budget, but
big impact.
Big impact for our sake. It is, And the other piece that we do is we host events, and world music is something that we are taking very seriously. We had this last year we had a Moroccan group, a group from Brazil, Samara. We had folks from Oaxaca, a 26-piece band from Oaxaca, Cuban trio. So we want to bring the world to this part of the world, but also honor the work of local artists like
So
like
let's talk
Leche Malo.
about. You've known Vincent for years. Let's talk about this man behind this fair bit.
So Vince, or now Leche Malo, I'm getting used to the name. I've known him since he was in kindergarten. He was my son's classmate, and I used to give him rides home. So, from the times where he was like a a kindergarten that was finding his way to now, I've seen the evolution of an incredible artist. You know, I saw him for the first time perform with the Monterey Jazz Festival high school honors vocal ensemble, and I was like, oh wow. And then he's like, oh, but I write songs too. So I've become a fan. I've never seen him do the same show twice. I've seen him incorporate whole movies and make his own movies, go to work in grapes, you know, in the grapes fields, and now with this new iteration, this whole thing of Leche Malo, I am just really in awe of how much he's challenged himself, how you know, what an incredible productive artist he is, and so it's really exciting to be able to host him here in a really teeny tiny space that I'm sure it's going to be just incredible.
It's going to rock. Now let's talk about some other stuff that you showed me. So you just kind of listed what went on here. Now you showed me the other day you had the West African drumming.
Correct.
And a guy shows up with a horn.
With a trumpet.
With a trumpet. And you showed me the video of that, and it was it was just awesome.
Yeah. So for me, this space does not exist anywhere else in town. You know, who hosts djembes and dunduns and these are folks who have been playing music and drums, you know, in Big Sur, in Salinas, all over the place, and just to be able to have them here. It is a blast because, first of all, the teacher is the real deal, Abdoulaye Diallo from Senegal, and then his students, you know, who have been with him for many, many, many years, and they take this very seriously. They actually they perform, you know, locally, and so for us in this particular case, what we're just doing is opening our doors, making sure that the place is run consistently, and they all tell me, they're like, you know, Juan is like, this is the first time that we're like on schedule, you know, things are on time, you know, we anticipate and we're presenting in a professional light. So
because you bring professionalism.
Well, I believe in that. I mean, this is. I mean, I've been on stage for many years of my life. I've had the pleasure of, and kind of like the toughness of touring nationally and internationally if you count Spain and Canada. But I know a lot of people say, oh, musicians are flukes. I'm like, that's BS, you know. You gotta be on stage, and you know, it's like you have a lifetime to make a career and one time to mess it up, you know, and people will forget about you. So for me, one of my mentorship pieces is like to tell these young people, present yourself always with dignity, present yourself with professionalism. If you invest in yourself, people will invest in you. You know, there's, you know, people who want the shortcuts, we're not interested in them. We want the folks who are like, you know, I'm going to invest in this thing, and I believe that you have a place in society, you know. So we want to make it easy for them, you know. And for me, part of running a program like a presenting program here is also to bring people that I love, that I respect in their genre, to be seen by our community. Because if I didn't do it, I don't see anybody else doing it, you know.
So you stepped up.
I was the first crazy one who was like, yeah, can we do this? And then fortunately, lots of people joined, you know, and so now it's a big family with everybody with different roles. Not everybody knows how to do everything. I just happen to be the main instigator.
So the second story you told me the other day, I had 4 stories, and the second one you told me was the girl with the backpack. And let's talk about that.
Yeah. So we hosted here an incredibly impactful series called Art Against Bullying last year, and Paul Richmond, who's now a local artist originally from Ohio, brought that to us, and we hosted 4 Sunday series and then a final exhibition where kids who had been bullied, 26 middle schoolers from the area had been bullied, came together. And this young lady created this gorgeous piece where She asked for a backpack. She put it, with a picture of a young person and all the words and names that she had been called. And inside, she put in a journal with all the incidents of bullying. And it was really cathartic. She was showcased here. Actually, this became like an exhibit hall, and hers was like one of the central pieces. And it was an interactive piece. People would come out, and the artist himself, Paul Richmond, who's has really great following, a lot of collectors and so on. He was the one who told me. He said, this is really, really a very powerful piece, and he bought the art from him. So he's one of those folks who has come along, and always whatever we suggest, he's like, sure, let's do it. Then in May we did something called family art, where families talked about their tradition, their culture, their roots, and then they talked about what their dreams and aspirations was. We did a multidisciplinary approach to the thing. We had different projects. We did a Oaxacan piece of art. We had interviews. We also did stories. So we documented these stories of migration. Some of these families. There was one lady who said that she had been kidnapped in the desert for like a month by thugs and caught by immigration authorities. Anyways, for me to be able to host this in here is like, I almost kind of have to get out of the way because I'm not a visual artist, but Paul is, and he made the magic happen, and the families embraced it,
So now the next one is the butterfly.
The butterfly exhibit or project is something that a lot of different folks have done. Fabiana Rodriguez has this series called Migration is Beautiful.
Now,
right?
who is that?
Fabiana Rodriguez is a Peruvian-American artist from Oakland. She's a queer, feminist, and pro-immigration activist. She's badass. She's really, really fantastic. And she used the monarch butterfly as a symbol of migration. But there's a group of teenagers in high school that have this project called the Butterfly Effect, which is kind of different from like what the scientists would call the butterfly effect. But to try to honor those kids who are in cages and in detention, the big embarrassment of our lives. I think history is going to look at us in disbelief. How can we be so cruel and so ungodly with these children who are fleeing prosecution and violence in their home countries, and now we have them, dying on the floors of cement prisons. It's separated them from their parents. Nobody knows where they are. So our kids and our families made different types of butterflies, from clay to origami to big paintings. And yesterday our visual arts class, the last thing that we did, I said, we could do holiday cards, or we can send cards to these kids who are in those detention facilities. And they had like one little line, and our kids started writing things like, "No te olvidamos, we won't forget you. Hang in there, people care about you, people remember you." And it was really, really touching. Many of the kids that we serve and the families that we serve, 95% of them are immigrants. And the reality for many folks who just go about their business, going, work and go have a glass of wine at night, it's invisible. The reality is invisible. So for me to have him be part of our space is just fair, right?
So one of the things that really kind of very much impressed me is you talked about how the ownership these people are taking here, and they come to you and say, well, we don't have any money, but what can we do? Can we clean? Can we help?
Right.
So let's tell that, because that's really powerful to me.
Right. Well, is creating, from the design perspective, an affordable, inclusive, culturally rooted, multicultural art center that has high quality is a dance, right? So of course you need funds to pay the teachers and the instructors. I believe in that. I know that there's I respect the work of other arts organizations, music organizations. They don't pay their teachers. They don't, everybody volunteers. And I don't believe in that. I think that artists and musicians, I come from Spain, there's taxes that go for artists to write, their novels and their screens and so on. So for me, I really want this to be fully funded, so it's sustainable, to have a lot of different people own it. But at the same time, the entry point for some of these families is really, really hard. So while we are asking them to contribute, and then they say, Mr. Sanchez, I don't have any money. Can I do something else? Can I bring snacks? Sure. These two ladies we'd like to do your bathrooms. Can I do your bath? And I'm like, so I started realizing that their ownership, it became something very, very different. And I'm floored. I'm honored. I have folks here who have done things that for me are just really, really important. We have a family. Father just got deported, and there's a lady who brings kids over here. It's like, don't worry, we're gonna pick up the kids and bring them over here. This is what it takes. I really do not want this to ever become an elitist institution. I want to continue to be rooted and actually continue asking the questions, what is it that we're missing? What can we bring to the table? And really continue this listening process. It's tough, right? It's messy. It's not everybody's going to be okay with the pace, but for me, I'd rather do things slowly, that are in a more inclusive way, and the resources will come if we continue doing the good work.
And you're making beautiful stuff. So let's talk about what went on just the other night.
Yeah. So one of our newest projects and classes is Ballet Folclórico from Mexico. Is a traditional Mexican folkloric dance, and we have a lot of families here from Oaxaca, and that have felt for many, many years that they didn't have a place to go. Actually, I do have a little piece of this. We've done some interviews for our own materials, and this mom told me, it's like, I just love seeing my daughter come over here and be able to do something that I did as a little girl, and not have to do it in somebody's living room, but actually try to do it here with a paid professional teacher and get the outfits. We actually, in our end of year campaign, we did a call for monies for outfits. And guess what? People have been very, very, very generous. I'm being floored by how much generosity has been. And last night, we were shown at the city of Seaside, Winter Wonderland, and just to see them dressed up and the pride that the parents have in putting together these outfits and this, and the dance, of course, they're all beginners. They've only been dancing for 2.5 months. But it was really, really touching. And I think people really got it. The kids are really hard on themselves, as many artists are. Like, oh, we messed up in the middle. I'm like, do you think that anybody cared or noticed? This is really what the work is. It's all steps, it's process, and I'm just happy that they have a home. I'm happy that they see themselves, like this is a home. Like a little boy, we sing a song called Lost Boy, and it's a pop tune. And I asked the kids, I said, any of you has ever felt lost? Like depressed or, or do you know of anybody who's lost? Like, yeah, I feel lost all the time. I'm like, how so? It's like, I lost my dad 2 years ago, and I feel lonely and sad often. And the song is like, says, it's like, this is, the Peter Pan deal, Neverland. It's like, and one of the kids says like, well, Palenke is a little bit like a little Neverland. I'm like, okay, no pressure. It's pretty neat.
That's great.
It's pretty neat.
So one of the things that you and I have talked about also. So this is the collaborative community piece of the artist. Right. You're doing the community piece, and then we've talked about the artist and the personal piece. Oh. We talked about Jose Ortiz, who's a muralist here who we both admire and
love, and
admire his work, but feel I personally feel that he's not, what he is pushed to do is do his collaborative work,
Right, the
and
murals,
his murals and his community work, but he's not pushed enough to do his personal work. And I feel that he should be, because the individual artist has to do his thing as well to really have something to bring back to the tribe.
It's a good point. We forget how talented and how deep his personal artwork is. I've seen pieces that are just floor me, and I look back, I'm like, oh, also you do that also, I forget,
Yeah,
It's hard because, if you've seen his artwork here, the Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks pieces, the murals that he has here at this school, they're incredible.
It's just fabulous work, and his team is, has been with him forever, and they're growing up with this guy, and they will be masters themselves. But I feel they're better served if Jose has enough time to develop himself. Because I think then he can come back and go deeper, and that sometimes we lose that. And so thinking in the aftermath of that conversation, I'm thinking that same conversation about you.
Oh.
And because again, you get caught up in you get caught up in something bigger than yourself,
right,
which is righteous.
Right.
But at the end of the day, also you are because you're encouraged in this, and I don't know if anybody's encouraging you to go back to you. They're very, it's easier for people to encourage you to do this than to do your personal.
Right.
But I think losing touch with the personal, or being in touch with the personal, brings more to the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. To tell you the truth, my only thread where I still feel connected with my own creativity is through poetic prose. I write mostly in Spanish. I'm not writing songs these days, but I do have, that thirst for that piece to connect and to be also, honestly, a little bit more authentic. I don't want to be a fraud. I pride myself in being a director, here, as knowing that I'm also an artist and that I have, that piece that I'm putting in the back burner, but I don't think it's dead. At times it feels like I'm so exhausted from other stuff that there's no room for anything else. But I want to be a little bit more forceful and perhaps getting the encouragement to do that kind of work.
Maybe that's my role, is to come here and tell you to do that. Yeah. And because I think it's important to encourage the individual. I also think just the walking in here, and when you told me just those
stories,
those 4 stories, those are just 4 stories of many stories.
Right.
And I'm envisioning you on stage with music, as a storyteller, as a, bringing all your things. And I was just imagining just the power you had.
How they could all work together.
In just the power that you had in just a random conversation that we walked through. I was envisioning you on stage with music, with collaboration, with being a focal point to tell some of these stories that you're collecting. I mean, you're having a very deep experience here. But it becomes more focused with the individual artist brings. You're the only one that's seeing it at all. in a sense.
A way,
so you being able to focus that and being able to condense it and being able to then tell those stories and push it back through through more than just words. Your full poetic imagery, your full musical ability, your full performance skills, and your artistic professionalism. I think you deserve that.
Oh, I really appreciate it. I was an elementary school teacher for 7 years, and I served mostly migrant kids. And as a result of that, I did come up with an album that I feel really proud of. It's called Hijos de la Tierra, Children of the Earth. And, stories, I would have kids Monday morning being completely exhausted and sunburned. I would tease them. I'm like, hey, you went to the beach. He's like, no, Mr. Sanchez, I was picking strawberries. I'm like, oh, God.
Wow, that's real.
I'm like, oh, okay. So then I started opening my eyes. I have parents who get sprayed with pesticides, and their immune systems are depleted. I have kids who are so tired from the craziness of their lives that they can never ever get the SAT scores that my kids would get. You know, so you become witness, but you also, as an artist, you try to express it in ways that are not too clumsy, that really honor their piece. And I think
you're bringing voice to the voiceless.
Right, but in a way, I in my next project, I really want more of those voices represented in their own way, included in the piece.
Yeah.
Not just me as like, oh, like the savior, blah blah blah
No,
blah,
no.
or like, oh, the know-it-all. It is
But
like,
you'll learn how to orchestrate
right,
it.
Right.
I really want. It's an orchestration of
right,
voices.
And that organic piece, I think, is really, really powerful.
Yeah, I separate personal from self.
Got it.
Yeah, you know, it's personal work.
Yeah.
It's you're the witness. You're the skill set, but it's not about your. It's not about your
Right.
feeling good about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's about your. You know, it's a duty. You know, it's a calling, and it's.
I'm glad you get it. I'm glad you get it.
And it's good stuff you're doing here.
Yeah, thank you.
Look into camera and tell people how they can help.
So there's a lot of different ways you can help. Spread the word. You know, let people know that we exist. Look us up on social media. Just find out and support our events and in our classes. Of course, you can donate. You know, through the website. But more than anything, just become part of the family. And perhaps take a step back to listen to communities that have things to say. They just need the room to do it, and the setting to do it, and just equity is not something, and fairness is not something that gets created in one day. Sometimes it's messy. Please be tolerant, be patient and compassionate with those communities that have for centuries, you know, being denied the right to exist in their whole self. And I think the artistic identity and cultural identity is something that is really at the heart of our community. Our democracy really hinges on that. I hope that you become part of the Palenke family. Thank you.
Okay. Beautiful, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.